Now, hello and welcome everybody to this Choice event number 81. My name is Josepha. I'm the growth marketing lead at Climate Choice, and I actually couldn't be more excited to have all of you here today. Now, for those of you who might be joining for the first time, I want to send out also a very warm welcome from the entire Climate Choice community. It's so great that we are seeing more and more people coming and joining us for this webinar and ready to dive deep into one of the most pressing topics in corporate climate action, namely Scope 3 decarbonization. And if you're wondering who we are, well, we are Climate Choice, your climate intelligence platform and source for primary supplier data to help you and your procurement teams elevate your Scope 3 accounting and strategy to the next level. And this Climate Choice event number 81 is actually part of our online webinar series where we showcase best practices from Scope 3 action leaders, mainly from our customers and partners, in order to learn from them and then also apply it back in your corporations. Now, I'd actually like to address the elephant in the room right at the start, because as we kick off this year 2025, there's a lot of uncertainty everywhere. So from regulatory shifts and evolving policies to economic pressures, it's actually quite easy to feel like sustainability is taking a back seat. But here's the reality. Supply chain decarbonization will not be slowing down. And as you will see, most of the leading companies, Scope 3, don't see it as a compliance accident, but actually it's about business resilience, risk mitigation, and long-term competitive advantage. And that's exactly what we're here to explore today. And now, what a better way to do so than by learning from one of the pioneers in climate action. And with that, I'm super excited that today we will have the chance to explore how the company Bosch is not only a global leader in technology and services, but has actually made impressive strides in making Scope 3 a business priority and in transforming supplier engagement into a key driver of climate action and business success. And now, to bring these insights to life, I'm very thrilled to now introduce today's guest speaker. Many of you might actually already know him from the last Climate Transformation Summit 2024, where he was one of our key speakers. And I mean, what can I say? The feedback on his insights was just so overwhelmingly positive that we couldn't do anything else than invite him back again. And with that, a very warm welcome, Dr. Thomas Schulte, Senior Vice President, Head of Governance, Supply Chain Management and Purchasing at Bosch. Hi, Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing great. And after this very nice introduction, what else can I say? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the call with us today. And now, I mean, as if it wasn't enough to have you with us, we actually want to ensure that nobody leaves this session today without applicable tools and strategies, because we will be sharing our Climate Choice Scope 3 toolbox, offering take-home strategies and templates to also kickstart your very personal Scope 3 decarbonization journey. And for this, I'm super glad to have my dear colleague Lara with us today. Hi, Lara. How are you?
Yeah, thanks, Josefa, for the very nice introduction in this Choice event. Yeah, I'm super excited to have Thomas here and once again, be really inspired by your impact journey across global supply chains to get so many companies behind decarbonization. And also excited to meet the community again, share best practices and talk about how we make this year really count halfway to our 2030 agenda. So excited for everything that comes.
That's it. And I mean, Thomas, when we look just at your LinkedIn profile and also from the talks that we had before, you have over 20 years of international experience now in supply chain and purchasing, and you've played a pivotal role actually in driving Bosch sustainability efforts. So you've been a key part in implementing award-winning approaches to decarbonization strategies and also a great leader for its overall climate journey. But before I try to, come up with just key facts that I can find on the internet, I would actually love to ask yourself, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Because I'm very sure that the audience shares my very personal interest to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks. And again, thanks for having me. So yeah, Thomas Schulte, 56 years old in the meantime, father of 2 children, 2 grown up and 2 about to grow up a little bit more. So in that sense, I would say there's an intrinsic motivation towards sustainability with the responsibility for my children and the family. Actually, I've been educated as an electronic engineer. I've done some years in research and development, and then I made a move to the dark side of the force towards purchasing, where I got to learn lots of suppliers, lots of contacts. I've seen various conditions in the world, which also made me think about my responsibility as a buyer to place business at companies or to refrain from this. And then already like 10 years earlier, the sustainability journey really started. So of course we had contracts with respect to keeping human rights inside and all that, but the decarbonization story, and also frankly the understanding that sustainability is not nothing that you do in your spare time, or if you have extra money to spend, or if you want to have a good press reputation, but really if you are looking into how can you develop profitable business. That came to our mind when we were talking about decarbonization, the Bosch operations. I will talk about that a little bit later. And yeah, since July last year, I've taken over the responsibility for the sustainability of the whole enterprise, and to bear those 2 roles, purchasing with high impact on the upstream, and at the same time, the global sustainability is also an eye opener on where we have synergies within companies, and I assume that's not only true for Bosch.
So you bring light to the dark side. That's very good.
I hope you see that. Yeah, it's no, I have to turn to the other side. Yeah.
But jokes aside, I mean, as I mentioned also in the beginning, also when I scrolled through the sustainability reports of Bosch, I mean, I have to be honest, I was thinking of it as, one of the key global leaders in technology and services, but it's really worthwhile then also mentioning that the Scope 3 journey that you've been doing so far is actually an incredible case study in turning ambition into action.
Yeah.
And I mean, I saw that you've more than 400 locations worldwide, and yet the Bosch Group has actually achieved to be carbon neutral overall since 2020 for Scope 1 and 2. And also you've been leading the way as one of the first automotive suppliers in that segment, at least, to join the SBTi in 2020, which has been setting, I mean, a global benchmark then also for Scope 3 target setting and decarbonization. And that being said, I'm very sure that everybody on the audience is now like, when will he be pulling up his presentation to show us more and get his insights? But before handing over the word to you, I just also want to encourage everybody sitting here in our audience to please engage and share your questions. So this is your room, your chance to also ask Thomas what you want to know, about more himself, but then also Bosch Scope 3 decarbonization journey. And so please make use of that chat function. And with that, now I'm done. And I would be very pleased to then also give the stage to you right now.
Thank you. So I try to share. I think it should be working now. If you could give me a sign.
Yes, we see it.
Blue.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so then let's get started. The title of the presentation is about making Scope 3 action and yeah, making things happen. And I think to start, why is Thomas talking about Scope 3? And Josefa, you said that before, because our Scope 1 and 2 are under control. But Scope 3 is really the tricky point, because it is linked to convincing others, convincing customers to purchase products which are more sustainable than they thought or than they used to. Also, maybe to convince them to change habits. And at the same time, if we're looking into our upstream, also finding new sources, new suppliers, which help us on our journey. And that is sometimes quite tricky. You see here in the background some of the logos. So some robots working, some maybe AI and other topics coming in. So all I can say is there is quite some dynamics, of course. And this is also something that is helping us in this transformation. I mean, we are transforming anyway. hardly any industry where I would say they will be in the same shape and deliver the same products in 10 years, 15 or 20 years. So for us, it's now time to use the opportunity in this transformation scheme to also look into sustainability. I will share some thoughts about that. I don't want to bother you with figures, but it is important to understand some principles or some let's say, characteristics of the company to understand why we are doing what we are doing. 50 billion sales, 430,000 associates. The takeaway is not be impressed by the big figures. The takeaway is large responsibility, and it takes time to turn things. To convince 430,000 associates to say, hey, come with us on our sustainability journey is not just sending out a communication. And it is also something which needs some foresight and planning, and you need to endure. So it's a kind of a marathon you have to think about, because you have to convince people, and despite some setbacks, you have to keep your pace, and you need to adopt, but at the same time, you need to convince a lot of people inside, outside. If we're looking into outside, 35,000 suppliers, and just writing a letter to them and telling them that they should be, please, more sustainable in the future and provide some good data is not good enough. So we started first communications on Scope 3 back in 2019. And I mean, that's now 5 years. Sounds like a long time, and it is a long time. But it also means you have to start your journey somewhere with first steps. And I think it's also important to understand that it is more important that you take the steps and that they're going into the right direction. Maybe a short hint from me here. We are talking about a lot of regulative requirements coming up or already bothering us in the one or other sense. And then this discussion about data and data quality and precision. To me, honestly, it's not so important that data is precise initially. It's more important that we understand we are taking the right steps. Because if we are moving on in those right steps and then our data accuracy increases, we have started doing the right things, and we are moving forward, and then we can also measure that more. 8,100 purchasing associates is also people to convince, to train. We're talking about a lot of effort we have been taking into training our people, training suppliers, helping them, supporting them, thousands of people, how to report, how to measure, how to increase energy efficiency. So a lot of that is going on. And the industrial sectors that are displayed here, from mobility up to consumer goods, are that just mentioned to reflect that the dynamics in the different sectors are different. If I want to sell a washing machine today, it's going to be extremely hard to sell that without an energy label and some insights on the whereabouts of the machine. In other areas, maybe customers are currently not that much interested in the product carbon footprint of the component rather than maybe functionality or durability. So we had these discussions internally whether we should really walk along one company strategy and one roadmap concerning sustainability, and we decided to do so, and we are not going to change that. I just mentioned in a pre-call with Josefa that our board has just decided to put a very clear statement on our sustainability ambition, again, also in the 2025 Bosch Sustainability Report, because we feel that it needs to take some bold steps. I mean, we shouldn't over-exaggerate. Making promises that you can't keep is not a good idea. But to also state an ambition and then follow this ambition, I think that's true. And therefore, we also said we cannot really live or be recognized with our brand if we apply different standards in different industrial sectors. So that's a little bit where we come from. And this is also underlined with our DNA. So Robert Bosch already said, never forget your humanity and respect human dignity in your dealings with others. So that is maybe more the social, or initially social aspect, but Stefan Hartung, our Bosch, said, and that was true for 2024, but it's also true this year, that despite headwind, we are heavily investing really actually billions into technologies that are sustainable and help us for the future, which means for us, a huge way ahead, because we are still serving also lots of industries which are not sustainable. We also, frankly spoken, we need the profitability of this business to enable the transformation, because the transformation is not just going to fall from heaven. We have to invest into technologies. We will also explore business in areas which is not going to be successful, obviously. And we have to be also a reliable partner for our associates. So in that sense, it is really challenging time, and a lot of piloting and making the right steps. If we're looking into the dimensions, you see here climate action, water, circularity, diversity, human rights, and health. I'm going to address some of them. Obviously, climate as one of the predominant one with respect to this seminar. But the takeaway here is that we have not started with a full picture. We have not started with all roadmaps already clear, but we have started in understanding what matters to us, and where can we take initial steps which are also tangible for our environment. So if we're looking, and Josefa, you said that before, if you say, well, we are currently maybe not in a general state of geopolitical affairs where tomorrow is quite clear, and we need to understand where supply chains develop, because the supply chains actually are decisive also for our success in climate action. There are already, or there are quite some options available. So let's talk a little bit and understand a little bit about technologies and digital procurement, and how we can make sure that if we enable digital procurement, we do this in a way that is also supporting our decarbonization journey. We said before that having transparency and understanding supply chain, also from a regulative standpoint, but also with respect to carbon footprints, helps for supply chain resilience. I will talk about this a little. And then there's one more, two more important points. One is sustainable sourcing, obviously, but then the next one, resource access and strategic networking. Because having partners which are following you on your journey, which also understand why you are going that journey and who buy into this, is one more key factor. So a little bit, what have we heard today? You need your top management to buy into your sustainability journey. I think without this, it is extremely tough to be convincing, not only internally to your associates, but also externally on the markets. I think it's good if you take initial steps, and if you at least point out what you would like to achieve. And then maybe there's a difference between what you promise and where you start from. So I would avoid, again, making promises which I can't keep. But then it's also now really, if not already, but really time to understand where do you draw benefits from sustainability. Because business decisions to spend money on sustainability without return on invest, I think in this current economic environment, are extremely hard to take. So everybody working in sustainability, I think, should have the ROI of the initiative at hand, to also convince the people that have to finance and fund and provide the budgets for the initiatives. And there are really good opportunities also, and low-hanging fruits, which can enable us to move along with sustainability. So let's talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts we find, for instance, when we're talking about IT architecture and strategy. Why am I talking about it? Because sustainability is all about data, data, data. Without data, we will not be able to understand where we are moving. We will also not be to understand where we have potentials. And here, my recommendation is avoid vendor lock-ins, work with partners. There are so many great partners. I mean, you talked about Climate Choice. We have many partners on the market. And I think if you find a partner who is willing to listen to you, who is adaptive, who is going to make the journey for you, or to accompany your journey, that is a key issue. And at the same time, we also see the high dynamics on the market. So in my opinion, it's important that you start your journey with a partner. Ideally, you continue the journey with a partner. Maybe you should at least also have the flexibility to use, because in that sense, you are driving the business also forward in your sense. My strong recommendation is to use the time to cut multiple entry channels. We still had lots of suppliers delivering data to us via email, which when we asked them for data, they whatever came up with their own documents and own sheets and anything. And we don't have the time and resources to manage this anymore. So for us, the real point is make sure you have one data entry into your backend systems that you get into supplier self-service, so that you are not managing the data from your suppliers, but that your suppliers are managing the data for you. Because, and ideally not only for you, but also for others. This is why I'm a great fan of platforms. I'm a great fan of standards, because anything here which can be shared is helping us to move forward. So 100% long tail solution, and for me also the opportunity to maybe carve out some suppliers which are not supporting your journey, because it's really not worthwhile to have them along. Data quality I talked about. It's clear that it takes a lot of time. I always, my general statement on this is that unfortunately, data quality is not a very attractive topic. Yeah, you can be. I'm just sorry. I just have to put it here. Plug in here some energy. So you can be very, or your projects are very attractive. It's a pilot, if it is a lighthouse project for something, and then you see the process going and you see this wonderful chart, and it's always great. Sometimes we tend to forget that all this is not working if the data is not there, and if the data is bad. I mean, a pie chart is a pie chart. If the data is rubbish, then it's a pie chart about rubbish. So I can only also here ask you to support and to also to support those colleagues in your enterprises and in your areas which are working and making sure that data quality is increasing day by day, because it's daily business. And here maybe the appreciation. I also said in our company we do not have a prize for best data quality yet. Still, if you look at the importance, maybe we should have it. So that's one more point. AI universe, I talked about that before. AI is absolutely great, lots of opportunities. It is also a great field for distraction, because every day you're looking into TikTok or anything, you will find hundreds of new solutions, and then it's like, okay, let's start this journey that looks attractive. 2 days later, or 1 week later, when you have established something, you find out that somebody in another part of the world has been faster than you. And then you might, after the fourth attempt, you might become frustrated and say, whatever I try, somebody has been faster. Why should I do it anyway? And here, one clear statement: understand your business, understand your pain points, and identify those AI solutions which help you to become more sustainable, more profitable, or whatever to overcome that pain point. Not so much looking to the left and the right, but just keeping track, and then to work from potential to potential. Else, I think it's really speeding around and ending up nowhere. So stringent AI roadmap as one more. And then, of course, we see, and Josepha, you talked about it, lots of regulations coming up, maybe also under discussion. Are they going to come? Are they going to come in the way they were originally planned? We are looking into CS-DDD now, and the question, will the CS-DDD change, or will we have national regulations in different European states? All that is as a great source of insecurity, and we need to make sure that we have a stable back-end systems which are dealing with this, because if for every change we would also plug in a new software and a new solution, we are driving ourselves crazy. So as you've heard, I'm responsible for governance of purchasing and governance of sustainability. So what should I say, rather than saying, okay, governance is playing an important role here, at least to path the way and also to give some guidance. Giving guidance, a question might be, okay, guidance, great, but into which direction? And here I would like to give or provide one example when we're talking about circularity. We talked about resilience before, and now we see the clash of different regions. I may just remind you about the customs tariffs, let's say, dynamics we've seen at the last weekend. So that has been keeping me busy over the weekend. But what's the takeaway? The takeaway is the tariffs can change extremely fast. The global tendency is probably the likeliness to have higher tariffs in the future is higher than that of global trade. And therefore, we get opportunities. Because maybe in the area of circularity, you currently have a quite cheap raw material, which is available on the market. All of a sudden, there is a tax. And then the first question is, do you still have access to this material? The second one is, what is the price level? So here, if you're looking into this, my clear understanding and belief is that in the near and midterm future, we will see more circularity cases becoming also economically viable, just because the general price levels are going to increase. What does that mean? Well, the point is, you could say, okay, I wait until this material is there and until I can use it. The other alternative is to say, okay, I enable myself to take the opportunity when it comes. So do I have partners to work with? Are the designs of my products good enough to also allow for alternatives? All this, it depends on the agility of your company. It depends on the agility of your customers and the areas you're working in. But my strong recommendation would be, it's now an excellent time to check, to try initial steps, maybe not waste lots of money, but what we call here the no regret moves. Yeah? Think about the scenarios and think about what can be done. How could the developments in the future be, and which steps which steps can you take anyway? You're not going to regret. And this scenario thinking helped us a lot also internally to understand opportunities, for instance, here with respect to recycling, but also in redesigning products. So that's in my opinion, more half full glass than a half empty glass.
Thomas, and maybe to just stay
yes.
on that slide for 1 second, because I mean, you've been mentioning, right, how you operate in multiple regions, and there's also then varying regulatory frameworks. And you've been mentioning how you use scenario thinking in order to now also adapt your strategies. But there was also one question that relates to, I mean, the past US elections, where the US then also seems to be getting more and more, so to say, different to Europe also, and how it develops from a regulatory perspective. How do you navigate these diverse and also shifting compliance challenges while ensuring that you're actually having a consistent global Scope 3 decarbonization strategy or climate strategy in general?
Complex question, but I try to answer it in a clear way. There is a Bosch overall commitment. The current commitment, for instance, for Scope 3 is minus 30% versus 2018 in absolute figures. This target has been deployed to all business divisions, but the business divisions have a full degree of freedom to deal with this. Means if I have a business division and they say, we have a transformative business in our product portfolio. We are changing, for instance, from gas heating systems, which emit a lot of gas in their use phase, towards heat pumps, which have low emissions, even hardly any emissions. They could state, why should I care so much about decarbonizing my upstream if the real lever is downstream, and if the downstream lever is my product portfolio? And then you can also manage that in region, and you could say, well, maybe whatever this shift from one technology to the other takes place faster in one region than in the other. Maybe also, as you said, the dynamics in the markets are changing, but this is an opportunity for you to steer along. We have other businesses, like for instance, household power tools, electric power tools, hardly any emission in the use phase, therefore emissions in the upstream. So here the question would be, can I have any recycled material? And maybe a specific one towards the US. I mean, we're talking about currently government, but don't forget the states. The state regulation is partially a complete different one than the one you see on a national level. So here I would say, of course, the dynamics are there, and it's making things hard to predict. But if you're following this glide path, so to say, you can also adjust accordingly. Maybe again, for me, it's really important, allow your entities the maximum level of flexibility in choosing levers. Yeah, the target is clear, and the measurement is also clear, but the levers, they should be as broad as possible.
So one joint goal, but then also self-governance among the different bodies who would know how to best move in each situation. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. So I have to move into the other direction. I just found that out. Okay. So we were talking about supply chain resilience. We are talking about also circularity. And usually you can't apply and develop circularity on your own. You need partners downstream, upstream, maybe even in parallel to your business. So you need the alignment and yeah, also collaboration with suppliers, with partners. And I had nice discussions 1, 2, 3 years ago. It's like, we have AI upcoming, and in the future, the sales AI will negotiate with the purchasing AI, and then the final contract will be documented. And you don't need supplier relations in digitized times. I think we have overcome that now. We understand that. Digitization and also in some cases for some standard components also automized negotiations help, but in current times you need reliable partners. Yeah, if certain taxation schemes change, if your supply chains are under pressure, you need reliable partners. So I think it's really time to find out who could be these partners. Where can you jointly develop business models where you grow together, win-win situation. And in that sense, AI can stimulate, of course, this know-how exchange and everything, but it's not going to replace the let's say, yeah, the relation to suppliers. And then, of course, yeah, you need on the upper right side, you need here to understand even more the whereabouts in your tier N supply chain. But if your direct supplier is not in a good relation with you, how should you understand what is going to happen in the sub-supply chain? And you need that, that's my statement here, for data integrity and accuracy, you need reliable partners. So this partnering, the question of whom am I partnering with and how do I treat my partners and how do I achieve win-win situations, I think is absolutely decisive for future business. Why? Because the future business is, of course, impacted by climate change, be it water scarcity, be it rain somewhere, be it storms, be it other interruptions to the supply chains. So here we need to face the brutal facts. And we had the warmest year ever in 2024. If I look forward into 25 and 6, I do not see a change in pattern of human behavior. So we will do our best and we will fight for achieving our targets. But we also have to admit that in some areas we will need we have to adapt to climate change. So here again, how do we do this with our partners? I will explain that in a second. Transform towards sustainable business. And what I would also highlight, and that's one more point here, sustainability and competitiveness, or sustainability and low-cost locations are not something contradictory, but we have really found now in the meantime very excellent partners in low-cost locations, competitive, and also with a good or excellent sustainability record. I will mention some highlights here. So our roadmap, you mentioned that before, just some figures. What have we been doing? Well, we've been decarbonizing Bosch operations. Why or how? Energy efficiency, of course. And here you have the great benefit that it's actually savings, it's commercial savings, and at the same time, avoidance of reduction. New clean power, in-house generation of with photovoltaics, but also with water, wind power. Green electricity, of course, and then to a negligible part, also carbon offsets. There will be also some more information on that later. I can't share that with you right now, but we are also reducing the carbon offsets even more and getting to even higher standards. So that it's clear for us that in our operation, part of the business cannot be executed in a completely CO2 neutral way, but we are very serious in making sure that the rest is compensated. And I think that's a record, or the track record you talked about, Josefa, our development with respect to requesting carbon disclosure from suppliers. So last year, 3,000 suppliers disclosed to us. You can say, Thomas, nice, but you talked about 35,000 suppliers. So if after 5 years or 4 years, it's only 10%, where do you want to end up? The real story is not visible here because, or you see it on the right side, it's the purchasing volume we cover. Yeah, 3,100 supplier represents 66% of our purchasing volume. So now 2/3 of our business is already fully controlled. And with this, you can steer. And of course, we are moving along. But honestly, I'm not so much spending effort into now getting to the next, or my hooks on the next 2, 3, or 6,000 suppliers, rather than making sure that for those 3,000 we have with us, that we take the right decisions. And you see that below, SBTi commitments. More than 900 suppliers have now obligated 30, as 1/3 of our procurement business is already in line with our 30% reduction target for 2030. Isn't that great? Because theoretically, I don't have to do anything about this portion anymore. It's just making sure that the suppliers that have given their commitment fulfill their commitment. And this is actually, for me, if you look at it from an efficiency standpoint, the best level I can get to. Why? Because they do what we need to do. They disclose what they need to disclose, and fine. So I can talk with them about making business and developing new products and great stuff, rather than integrity.
Thomas, there was one question, and I would actually like to put it here to pause it for just a second on this super insightful slide, which I mean is showcasing a tremendous development in your entire supplier-based climate maturity. Because I mean we can see, right, that the overall maturity is increasing. Yes, I mean you pointed out in the beginning that you have 35,000 suppliers. So I guess there is still quite some differences also among your suppliers, and at the same time, I mean, you have been one of the early adopters of primary emission data collection, as you've been sharing, and then also of really using material and product carbon footprint to enhance strategic procurement decisions. Now, if I put these two thoughts together, right, you are in the meantime setting a very high bar for your suppliers, but the reality remains that supplier readiness is diverse. So what we see from other companies who try to deal with this is that they're using tools as, for example, supplier benchmarking in order to incentivize the others to jump on the same level, so to say, to then also incentivize them to move away from industry averages to supplying their primary data points. From your experience, what would you recommend companies that are just getting started? What strategies have been most effective, so to say, in getting your suppliers on board and supporting them in this transition towards more accurate data?
If I boil it down to 3 points, first one is share your ambition. Why should a supplier follow you on your journey if the supplier is not convinced that you are taking it seriously and that the supplier is able to understand why you are going this way? So this communicative aspect is, for me, number one. Number two, you have to enable at least your own organization, because if you are a highly motivated supplier then meets people in your organization, the procurement side, who have no idea and maybe give statements like, yeah, I don't know, and I don't know what I could do with this data. This is a little bit frustrating. Third, and maybe most important, make sure that within your organization you can manage suppliers with different maturity levels. We are currently also far away from a situation where if we RFQ something, or if we send requests for quotations, we would get carbonization or CO2 data on an equivalent level from all suppliers. There may be a mix. Somebody is maybe giving you the best product carbon footprint, as best, most precise product carbon footprint in the world. And from the other one, you can just have an estimation about standards in the industry, but you have hardly any idea. And then to enable your purchasing organization to lever that, to say, okay, which value does a better or more reliable CO2 footprint have for me? I think that is the next step. And what we're doing is we have different categories, maturity categories, like lowest category would be we have to estimate a carbon footprint, a company carbon footprint from our side. And the best one would be there's a certified product carbon footprint coming from the supplier. And we are driving towards higher standards. So we also challenge our purchasing organization to say, okay, this year we have been able to accept a certain level of, let's say, maturity D, but next year we don't do that. So by and by, we are developing the supply base and we are driving forward, and we need to be able to balance different maturity levels over time.
And maybe, I mean, because now it gets even more complex, right? There was a question from David Zander, and if you do not have the answer for just now, then we can also leave it. But he was also putting into our questions that as of today, one of the biggest extensions of the German Due Diligence Act for the upcoming European equivalent CSDDD will be the obligation to not only monitor tier 1 suppliers, but suppliers along the entire value chain, so end tier. Can you already give an outlook on how Bosch is planning to meet this new requirement?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say we need to distinguish, of course, between different categories. One example, if I'm talking about product carbon footprint, I do not care about my tier N. Why? Because the aggregated sum of emissions ends up on my, let's say, ramp, at my ramp. And here I know what has happened before. I mean, I'm not talking about cheating. I'm not talking about data quality. I'm just saying practically I will get something delivered to my door, which gives me an idea about what has happened before. If we are talking about water scarcity, if we are talking about human rights in the supply chain, that's a complete different story, because the product that I get on my foot onto my ramp does not tell a story about how has it been produced, under which conditions. So here I have to take a look. And here, very simple as before, we are taking risk-based approaches. We are looking into those commodity which are prone to maybe higher risks. We have conducted, I think, just last year. Don't quote me on that because I'm not quite sure, but it should be around about 3,000 audits at suppliers. Some I think close to 100 deep drills, where we really go to the suppliers and look what's happening. And there's a change we have made. In the past, it was more like go to as many suppliers as possible and conduct the audits and then move forward. And we've changed that because we said it doesn't make sense. It's not the sheer number that is convincing. We need to understand where are the risky points and then go into depth. So we are really now analyzing the results of the audits. We are using also AI to derive patterns and then to really focus on our activities, because you can scale it. 35,000 direct suppliers. If each of them just has 10 sub-suppliers, you are ending up, and then sub-suppliers, you are ending up with millions of sub-suppliers. So here, data transparency in the way of I have IT systems which are helping me to manage a good risk-based approach, and then also thorough analysis of the findings you have in-house, I think could be 3 good starting points.
Cool. Thank you so much. This makes it very clear.
Yeah, good. So then let's continue a little bit with our journey. I think we are not going to probably cover the whole slide deck, but it doesn't matter. I think the discussion is even more important. So 1 minute on how can you turn the nasty discussion about the regulations into something that is helpful in your company, because we had that at times as well. This complaint of I could be more profitable if only the regulations weren't there, and this is for me the wrong discussion. I have a huge or a clear critical position to some regulations, because I do not think that in the way they are designed, they are really helping business and especially not helping sustainability. But in general, what is happening? We get more transparency, we get comparability. So here again, it's an option for us to enhance data quality, to look at our IT structure, to look into supply chain resilience, get cost transparency, and then, and this is now the important point, look into product design, look into our product portfolio. I think many regulations help us to reassess what have we designed in the recent years, what are our supply chain paths and tracks we are following. And with this, I think we get also a great opportunity to drive our business. So I'm actually my statement would say we should not discuss so much about the effort that it takes to report, rather than thinking about how we get into an efficient reporting, which we can use for our business, and then take it from there. Yeah. One example, we have set up systems earlier and to manage, for instance, a battery regulation and also a deforestation regulation. We do that now with the same systems. It is additional effort, but at the same time, we are not spending much more time on processes anymore. It's just the process applied for another topic or for another challenge as well. So what can we do now? If regulations, or as regulations are there, things are changing, think about design. And I would start here on the right side with this statement. Imagine we had the chance to remodel our supply base. Why? We are in this transformation. We have to transform things. And as purchasing, sometimes you find yourself in a situation that engineering or somebody else says, well, I don't want to change the supplier. I don't want to change the design. Why? It's effort. It's a risk maybe. And we have better things to do. Now, if you have to change anyway, isn't that a great moment when you can stick your heads together with sales, with manufacturing, with engineering, and say, okay, if we consider what our new products should look like, or the modified products should look like, and if we look into our current design, and if we look into our current supply base, how can we change this at the same time? So if you're not addressing that product by product, rather than what does the old portfolio look like and what should the new portfolio look like, you get, and that is my experience, absolutely great impulse for your organization to move along and move forward and to change. And then you're getting into this reversible connections, disassembly questions, the consideration of composite materials, packaging, and all that. So it is also a great impulse, I think, for the internal collaboration between engineering and other functions. And this is, of course, supported. And here, again, regulations, in my opinion, help, because if regions oblige to achieve certain carbon levels in the future, and you see that here, many regions have obliged for 2050, some for 60, some for 70, you can, of course, say, okay, if my business, I'm just taking one example from Europe now, if the business has to be green in Europe anyway in 2050, then in 2051, I will not have non-sustainable business in Europe anymore. That's a clear logic. So how do I have to change my product portfolio to achieve this? And at the same time, you see, this is, for instance, the development of renewable energy share. You see that things are changing. I think this is a statement here. China built 216 gigawatt of new photovoltaics just in 2023. I'm looking for the figures 24. I don't have them right now with me. But there are huge steps forward. And if you now collaborating with partners which are making use of this green energy, you are already on the right track. So here, if somebody tells you I have no idea how to develop my business till 2050, maybe you don't have to. But if you have a clear idea what to do for the next 20 years, and coming back to what I said, and you know it's a non-regret step. Yeah, it's the right step forward. It's bringing you into the right direction, and then maybe not me, but whatever, my successor will then drive it forward. I think that's a great strategy.
And Thomas, I mean, even though I might not have a strategy now for the next 10 years, but for the next 10 minutes, I know that Lara still wants to present something. So maybe we could slowly but surely come to an end, just as a time advice.
Yeah, we do that in 1 minute, in a sense that we directly jump onto the last slide, which is, oops, sorry. No, actually, it should be the one before the LinkedIn I share later. So regulatory landscape is developing. We have this complexity and we need to be agile. That's the first point. Second one is it's now really time to not become exotic and say I'm responsible for sustainability because I've always been a friend of this, but to really be supporter of your business. Bring up the business cases, make sure that you come up with something that shows a return on invest to make it also acceptable. Pragmatic and risk-based approaches are important. It's not now time for nitty-gritty and details and everything is thought through, rather than taking the steps forwards. And again, without digitized solutions, it's not going to change. So thanks again for your attention. And of course, I'm also here to answer any other questions coming up.
Wow, that looks like an amazing cover picture there. So we will for sure then also have a better look at this. And I really have to say, I mean, I'm truly impressed, Thomas, by all of your valuable insights that you've been sharing with us today. Also showcasing a very different side to Bosch. Yeah, so I'm going away really with a lot of learnings from how you did internal to external enablement, integration of scope 3 in processes, strategic objectives. So I can always say, chapeau, what a journey. Congratulations. And thank you so much also for being here today. And now, I mean, you are already quite down the line on your journey, yet we also know that for many organizations that are still at a very different point, getting started remains actually one of the biggest hurdles. And many of you then also in the audience might now be wondering, how do we kickstart our own Scope 3 decarbonization journey? How do we move from pilot projects to full-scale implementation? And if these questions sound familiar to you, well, then I guess you're not alone. And we've got great news for you, because from our experience working with the companies at different stages of their Scope 3 journey, we've learned that taking the first step is the most complicated. But once you're on the path, PX change actually becomes invaluable to then also ensure that you're on the right track. And that's exactly why we launched the Scope 3 Action Group, which is a 4-month blended learning and action program designed to help companies develop and scale their Scope 3 strategy. And I'm super happy to say that there's already more than 40 companies, from SMEs to large corporates, that have already participated, benefiting from shared experiences, a structured guidance given by Lara and the team, and hands-on tools. And today, Lara, I'm so happy that we have you with us again today. We'll present some of the key take-home tools that we've been developing based on the insights and learnings from this program. So very practical frameworks for all of you that you can hopefully then also apply immediately to advance your own Scope 3 efforts. And with that, over.
Yeah, thank you, Josefa. I hope, you can see my slides and see me well. It was super insightful to learn from Thomas how they have already scaled on the whole Scope 3 journey, right? But then also working across industries with different companies, we actually see what he said before, and there was also the question in the chat, right? When you start with Scope 3, you first of all think about the emission data. And that's what a little bit the picture shows, right? Everyone knows there are hundreds and thousands of suppliers. Tier N was asked, and it can look very, very overwhelming when you really want to start from the top of having perfect data. And what we work with our customers together is really making Scope 3 data what we call actionable, and therefore bringing in a scalable process to have impact on the supply chain and decarbonization. And that's what I want to quickly give you as a toolbox from our Scope 3 group to how to come really from these different steps, emission data from suppliers, over a strong supplier climate engagement program towards Scope 3 decarbonization. And as said, that's what we do in our Scope 3 group, and really go through these 3 modules to learn from other companies, share best practices, and then really give you also the time and framework to accelerate your own journey, no matter where you stand. Some companies have started already, have maybe done a pilot and really want to scale it up to 100,000 suppliers. Others are really in the beginning and really want to test with the first 10, 50, 100 companies, suppliers, to get on that journey. So to share a little bit from what we call our master plan for Scope 3 action is to get from this wish of having the perfect emission data and answering the question, which emissions do I actually buy in, specifically often in Scope 3.1, sorry, to really move away from that third thought it needs to be perfect in the beginning, but working maybe with average data and what is there, and then working your way towards more specific data from the suppliers and really getting towards validated PCF data in the end. And while we move through that journey, it really shows you have to move away from that question of I want to have the perfect data first, towards where actually my suppliers stand. So to understand the climate maturity, Thomas has shared that before. Who of my suppliers actually have a clue when I talk about climate and have maybe already emission data there. So that would be level 2, what we call maturity, or who of them has already their own scope 3 targets, maybe aligned with science-based targets, and are already in the program taking action. So with them, you can really work together. And what do I do with the whole rest who's maybe just starting? So it's really all about getting into a supplier program that fits the needs of your suppliers. And that's really where the magic happens in our Scope 3 group, where we move away from data as just collecting data, but making them actionable and using it to understand the climate maturity of your supply chain. So here's an example. We go into benchmarking suppliers and really clustering them along emission, but then also maturity, and find out on which suppliers you or which group segment you really want to focus, and then get into best practice sharing. So learn from other peers. What are they doing? How are they accelerating their suppliers? Do they really train them? Or get maybe into awards? How do they use maybe carbon pricing and so on to really structure their sustainability approach to procurement as well? And then it also always comes back to the own company and not just looking to the suppliers, but really talking about what kind of upskilling needs to happen in the procurement team maybe, how can you collaborate around data, and how can you build up a strong sustainability procurement approach. And yeah, that's just a glimpse of our master plan, how to move along like the topics of emission data from suppliers to supplier engagement, and then also feeding back information to suppliers in dashboards, benchmarking best practices to really get them moving into action. And yeah, happy to dive deeper into that in the Scope 3 group. Next one is starting in March. And yeah, happy to answer questions here.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura, for sharing these great insights. And there's more information, of course, than also on our Climate Choice website. And Thomas, I'm not sure if you're here with us still today, but I mean, we're just kicking off the year 2025, and we're coming to an end of the session. So I would like to use the last couple of minutes just to then also ask you again, what are your key priorities for this year to come, and what are you most looking forward to?
Key issue is definitely keep track and emphasize and assure to everybody already active in the sustainability community to not lose face, but to use now these times as an opportunity. I mean, we could also say that maybe when everybody is emphasizing sustainability, maybe some decisions have also been taken, or some initiatives have been launched and started, where at the end of the day you could ask yourself, has this now really been the best approach we could take? So maybe to cut off some branches and say, okay, let's focus on the main track. This is for me the key issue for this year. Yeah, to understand, independent of the firework of what's going on to the left and the right, what would I like to achieve at the end of the year? How do I do it? With which partners? And that is for me the actual task for this year. And of course, I'm looking forward that at the end of the year we can say, hey, wow, it has been a quite challenging year for us, but again, we have advanced on our journey. That's of course the target.
Great. And Lara, what would it be for you? What are you most looking forward to in 2025?
Yeah, I love what Thomas said, which is not looking left and right, but really focusing also on your partners. So I think that's really what I look the most forward to like bring companies together and join forces, because I think everyone is a little bit overwhelmed with what's happening in all kind of directions, but then to really line up with others and see what you already achieved and how much more you can achieve by working together and not reinventing the wheel each time, but really also seeing how you can bring business advantages when you really work together and make the next steps. So bringing companies together also at our climate summit or across our Scope 3 group, that's really where it always sparks my motivation also the most, to see like how many insights, best practices are already out there, and how motivated most of the people are like really working in that field. So also for me, Thomas, chapeau on combining sustainability and procurement and really driving forward the industry.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I guess we can see that there's a lot of movement and also happening. And as some companies accelerate, more will accelerate. And so in the end, hopefully, then also becomes like a flywheel effect. But of course, the effort needs to come from each and every one of us. But with that, also, thank you so much to our very engaged audience. We didn't manage to answer all the questions, but I will try to then also get a little bit more of time from Thomas to get the answers on them, and then also share it in the follow-up to this session. And we will, of course, as always, have a blog post. We will upload the video, and we would love to have you all for our next session, our Climate Choice webinar, where we will be looking at how to actually develop climate transition plans. So invite us up to come soon. And with that, I wish you all a very beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much again, Thomas, and of course, Laura. To you too.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Josefa,
the
for
opportunity.
hosting. It was
Thanks
such
for the
a
Thank
nice
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
session.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.